All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about something that I know can sound a little technical, maybe even a bit dry, information systems. But I promise you, this stuff is the absolute bedrock of how pretty much every company on Earth actually works. And to really get it, let's start right here with this killer analogy. Don't think about code or computers just yet. Instead, think of an information system as the company's nervous system. It's what zips signals around, processes what's happening, and lets the entire organization feel, react, and make a move. It's what makes a company a living, breathing thing.
So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start at the ground level with daily operations, then climb up to see how these systems fuel big decisions, then see how they connect the whole company, and finally, we'll get into the really big stuff, the power, the progress, and yeah, the problems they create.
First things first, what is this nervous system actually doing? Well, at its very core, its main job is to perform a kind of magic, turning a bunch of raw, meaningless facts into something you can actually use, real, actionable insight.
You know, we throw around the words data and information like they're the same thing, but they are worlds apart. It's a really important difference. Think of data as just raw ingredients. It's a single purchase, a messy spreadsheet. On its own, it doesn't mean much. But information, that's the finished meal. It's when you take that data, you process it, you organize it, and suddenly you don't just see sales numbers. You see your most popular product. You see a trend. That is something you can act on.
So what's doing this magic trick? The information system. And look, it's not just the hardware. It's this whole ecosystem, right? You've got the hardware, the software, the data, sure. But just as important are the procedures you follow and the people actually using the thing. All of it has to work together to make that leap from raw data to smart decisions.
Okay, let's get practical and head down to the foundation of the business. We're talking about the systems that handle the non-stop, day-to-day grind, the stuff that just has to get done to keep the lights on.
And down here, you'll find what's called a transaction processing system, or a TPS. Think of these as the absolute workhorses of the company. They're not flashy, but they are so essential. A TPS is just churning through and recording all those routine transactions, every sale, every hotel booking, every paycheck, making sure it all happens correctly every single time.
Payroll is the perfect example of a TPS in action. It's this clear, structured process. First, the system grabs the data, the time cards. Then it processes that data, calculating the pay. After that, it updates all the main employee files. And finally, it spits out the output, the paychecks and the tax reports. It's the engine that just keeps chugging along, making sure everyone gets paid on time.
So the TPS has the daily grind covered. But what about actually managing the business? Let's move on up the pyramid. We're going to see how different systems are built specifically to help managers at every single level, from the front line all the way to the C-suite. And here's the key idea. You need the right tool for the right job, right? Same goes for these systems. Down at the operational level, the decisions are structured, like when do we reorder paper? A TPS gives you that data. But move up to middle management and problems get a little fuzzier, semi-structured. That's where you need more advanced systems. And then you get to the top, where senior execs are dealing with huge, unstructured problems, and they need the most powerful systems of all.
So this manager's toolkit gets more sophisticated as you go up. And MIS kind of gives you the what happened report by summarizing all that TPS data. A DSS is cooler. It lets you play around with what-if scenarios for those non-routine problems. And an ESS, that's the big one. It pulls in data from inside and outside the company to help execs answer those massive strategic questions about where the company is headed.
But you see, having all these separate systems for different departments creates this massive headache, data silos. Where the finance team's data is totally walled off from the marketing team's data. The next big leap for information systems was all about smashing down those walls.
And the answer to that headache? It's called Enterprise Resource Planning, or ERP. The whole point of an ERP system is to create one central database for the entire company, a single source of truth. That way, when someone in sales logs a new order, the folks in accounting and shipping see it instantly. No more silos.
Of course, businesses don't just exist in a bubble. They have suppliers and partners. And that's where supply chain management, or SCM systems, come into play. They stretch that visibility beyond your company's walls, helping you manage the whole flow of stuff, from the moment you source raw materials all the way to the truck that drops the final product at your customer's door.
And finally, what about maybe the most important part of the whole equation? The customer. Customer relationship management, or CRM systems, are all about building one complete picture of every single customer. The goal is simple. When you call customer service, they actually know who you are, what you've bought, and that you were just on their website 5 minutes ago. It's about having a real relationship.
So what's the big payoff for doing all this hard work of integration? Well, it's huge. Suddenly, you can make way smarter decisions because everyone's looking at the same accurate data. You become more efficient, you can get products to customers faster. It really is the difference between being a bunch of separate departments and being one single smart, responsive organization. And that brings us right up to today, to the modern era, where these systems are unbelievably powerful. They've fueled massive changes, like the explosion of e-commerce. But, and this is a big but, with all that power comes a whole new set of really serious challenges.
I mean, just think about e-commerce for a second. It's been growing at over 15% a year, completely reshaping how we all shop and how businesses have to run. And this entire global revolution, it is built on the back of exactly the kinds of sophisticated, integrated systems we've been talking about.
But this power brings up a pretty critical question. We've all heard the line, right? With great power comes great responsibility. So as these systems get more and more woven into everything we do, what exactly are the responsibilities and the risks that tag along?
And yeah, these are the big, thorny questions we're all wrestling with now. Privacy is a huge one. What's happening to our data? How do you protect ideas when you can copy anything with a click? Who's to blame when an algorithm gets it wrong and causes real harm? What about simple bugs or bad data? And are we leaving people behind in this tech race? There are no easy answers here.
So besides those heavy ethical questions, there's the very real day-to-day threat of security. Protecting these vital systems means you have to build a digital fortress. That means layers of defense, scrambling data with encryption, using firewalls, controlling who has access with passwords or even biometrics, and always having a backup plan for when things go sideways.
Which really brings it all down to this final thought. Information systems aren't some separate technical thing anymore. They are literally the fabric of our modern world, of our jobs, of our lives. So knowing that, what's our responsibility? What's your responsibility as an individual, as part of an organization, to make sure this incredible power is used ethically, securely, and in a way that benefits everyone? That's the big question we all need to keep asking ourselves.